Citibank, Coca-Cola, has been GM with Soho Square, and Neo at Ogilvy set those up, and before this led online business for Dell. All good?
All good.
All right, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit differently than I normally do with a presentation. So I'm going to talk more about Singapore, I'm going to talk about friends, I'm going to talk about how real connections happen. So I won't kind of give you a lot of marketing speak, I won't tell you, the fluffy things about how wonderful social media is. I'm going to tell you you're doing it wrong. I'm going to tell you why you're doing it wrong, and I'm going to offer a polite suggestion of how you can do it better. But first, let me introduce myself. This is me. Please follow me on Twitter. That's my LinkedIn connection. Drop me an email. We live in a social world. I'm a social person, so I've been living social, and I'll take you through some of my history in social in a few slides for many, many years. I would suggest that I've been doing social media since around about 1995, using something most of you are probably not aware of called IRC. And I'll explain my history a little bit later, but it's a fun background. But I'd love to hear from you, and if you definitely want this presentation, feel free to reach out. At this point, I normally give you the Samsung sales pitch, but I see a lot of you with Samsung products. Fantastic. If you don't have one, go buy one. They're awesome. So instead, what I'm going to do is talk to you about 5 things. I'm going to tell you that social media is actually about people and not brands. I'm going to ask you the question and take you through specifically for Singapore and globally how many friends you have. I'm going to look at the social networking scene in Singapore, look at my personal story in social media, and then go on to how brands should engage through social media platforms. So, this is fundamental. Most people are going to get this wrong in the rush to do Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter or engagement through blogs and forums. But social media is simple. It's about people. And to understand social media, we need to understand the connections that people make. And those connections that people make are about friends, family, and loved ones. And that's what I'll spend the next kind of couple of slides talking about. You have 13 true friends in your life. 13. And if you think about that, I'm going to talk you through the 3 waves of where you find friends. And again, some of these numbers don't necessarily add up because they're going from different data sources, so please don't ask me any hard questions. But take this as an indication. You have 13 true friends in your life. Now, by definition of true friend, I mean someone you would go out and have a coffee with, have a beer with, someone you'd go to their wedding, someone you'd want to spend your time with. You could either spend time going to work, hanging out, listening to that awful kind of band that they really love. That's a true friend. But you actually also have 30 to 40 acquaintances. And nowadays you're seeing 50 plus online friends who you've never met. On average, you have 107 friends in your life. You have 3 waves of friends. In school, you will meet your first real friends. You have your first real experiences. Often you'll have 1 or 2 friends that you continue through the rest of your life. Often you kind of let go of those friends, but sometimes you hang on with them. Those friends you make in school tend to be lifetime friends, or go away very quickly. Second phase, I think most of us have gone through this. You've started university, you've gone to school, maybe you're going through NS, you have your first adult experiences, your first real relationships, you break up with people, maybe you maintain friendships with them, maybe you don't. When you're first starting out, those experiences influences where you go in your life. And of course, later in life, it does become harder to get friends. You're actually around things like interests, hobbies, and passions of yours. You tend to have to share those experiences. That's part of what Laura was talking about with communities. In those communities, you start to make friends. Now, what I'm going to talk about over the next 3 slides is actually how you make those friends in social media. In Facebook, people have on average 234 friends. That's globally. You make those friends, primarily, 22% of those friends come from a high school or school group. The next 12% are extended family and family. The next 10% tend to be co-workers, and particularly former co-workers from a previous job, because I know a lot of people feel funny about actually adding current co-workers on Facebook. I do. I don't like that. You can also see that most people are connected to 80 pages, events, and other key pieces of information in groups. On LinkedIn, people average 50 to 200 LinkedIn connections. 2 years ago, it was an average of 60. This year, it's actually got close to 150. And as the years go by and the LinkedIn network grows, your number of connections starts growing. In Singapore, there are close to 1 million people who have a LinkedIn profile. It's around about 21% of the total Singapore population, and it's 27% of the online population, and only going forward and growing. I'll talk to you about why that matters a little bit later on from the professional standpoint in terms of getting a job and actually making open, honest connections with people in a professional context. And finally on Twitter, people average 115 Twitter followers. But I wouldn't call these guys your friends. Most of the time you have not met them. But funnily enough, it is becoming the cool place for young people to hang out. It used to be about Facebook, but you know what? It's no longer cool to inbox people on Facebook as much as it used to be. People are kind of swarming over to Twitter nowadays. Slowly, but happening. In Singapore, you'll see the top 10 dominated by actors and media companies. You don't see a lot of individuals there. So when you start to see individuals, they're around about the 10 to 15,000 Twitter follower mark. Most people average less than 1,000, certainly about 115. So that's the background of how you get friends and how you get them on social media. And let me talk to you about my personal brand story. And just hang with me a second, this is going somewhere. I'm going to bring it back to how you market to people and why it makes sense. So to tell you about my personal story, I have to take you back to the 1990s. It was a time of Friends. It was a time of Pearl Jam. It was Nirvana. It was grunge rock. It was these awful, horrible mobile phones that actually weighed about 5 kilos. It was a time of bad fashion. It was a time of being cool. Now I said back in 1995 I was involved in social media. It was my first real foray into the internet and into social media. A lot of people still kind of actually have taken the same kind of concept and now apply it to things like chat or instant messenger, online forums, even commenting on things like 9gag and kind of meme sites as well. But for me it was about IRC, or MIRC was the client I used. If you're not familiar with it, it looks a bit like this. I've just taken a random screenshot there. So between 1995 and 1997, I actually kind of hang out on IRC. I used the term prophet or reptile as my kind of online name. It was about kind of meeting up with, I wanted to meet friends. In fact, more importantly, it was about finding myself. But even more important than that, it was about getting girls. And you might see this is my group of friends back in 1995. You see this very handsome tall guy here in the red is me. Looks nothing like me nowadays. That was my girlfriend at the time, Danielle, who I met online. And these are all friends I met through IRC. A bunch of kind of gothic, alternative, grungy nerds. Now fast forward to where we are, 2013. This is what young people are doing now. It's not IRC, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's online forums. But the context still applies. When you're young, when you're in your teens, and when you're in your early 20s, you're basically trying to find yourself and you're trying to hook up with a member of the opposite sex. That's what it's all about. Moving forward, in 2004 and 2005, I changed a little bit. I came out of a long-term relationship. I started using MySpace, and again, it was about hooking up. More importantly, it became about trying on personalities. For young people in particular, when things like Friendster came about and then MySpace came about, it wasn't about an exclusive network of friends. It was about trying on these key personalities. You might see a teenage boy who has a black background, he's got his heavy metal music up there. You know what? Suddenly next week he gets a girlfriend. Suddenly he takes off the heavy metal, takes off the black background, puts on a blue background, starts talking about how he loves walks on the beach. You're trying on personalities. And social media, particularly the anonymous social media, back in the day, was very good for that. And it's interesting, there's a talk later in the week about growing up with Facebook. We are the last generation that will actually kind of have a certain level of anonymity in our lives. Our kids will grow up knowing our lives, our videos of our lives, the photos of us as kids. They'll see our mistakes, our drunken parties, and so on. They won't have the opportunity to find their personality through social media in the same way that we will. Privacy for them won't exist in the way that it did for us growing up. But let me fast forward to closer to now. This is my LinkedIn profile. I've been on there since 2005. I currently have 4,240 LinkedIn connections. In the last 12 months alone, I have 47 job offers. Not job offers for me necessarily to go to work immediately, but certainly invitations to interview. And actually one job. Someone offered me a job to come work at Samsung. I took it up. I've also had 58 people want to work with me, for me, with me, whatever. I've also had 33 business partnerships and or sales pitches. Anything from advertising agencies who want to work with the brands I've worked with, most recently Dell and Samsung, but also people who are actually trying to sell me technology, want to do some sort of business relationship, selling something, basically. So there's actually real connections between people to people. And I don't mean that to put up there to kind of say, wow, I'm falling behind, I haven't had 47 job offers. That's ridiculously, probably unrealistic. You shouldn't expect that. But for me, because I've actually spent so much time on social media and a social media native, that's just how it's kind of worked out. But the important thing through all of this, as I've actually used social media myself, is about the connections you make with other people. Notice at not one point during all of those history of social media have I talked about brands. I don't care about brands. So what I want to do is talk to you about brands and some of the issues about how they're getting it right and how they're getting it wrong. It's a really kind of hard image to see here, but basically a guy has a book on his face. And I know if you're a grammar Nazi, I also feel this as well. You always spelled it correctly. But Facebook and social media, you're doing it wrong. Why? Because people want to connect with other people. They want to connect with their family. They want to connect with their friends. They do not want to connect with brands. Most importantly, 57% of people do not want to talk to brands. They don't want a relationship with brands. I don't mean they don't care about brands. Of course they do. You might like a page. You might interact with a page. You might have a customer service issue with a page. But you don't want to have a long-term relationship with a brand. Think about that. When's the last time you said, oh wow, I really need to hang out with Singtel today? So, wow, I'm really enjoying the next flight I'm going to take with Singapore Airlines. I really want to talk to their corporate communications team. It doesn't happen. You think about the technology and how it enables your life. You think about the trip you're about to go on and the destination, how awesome it's going to be. You don't think about the brands that enable that. You have a transactional relationship with those brands, but you don't want a relationship with them. 57% of people don't even want to talk to you. And even when they do talk to you, they have a relationship with 6 brands only. 6. Now, I would say, without trying to sound too arrogant, some of those 6 might be Apple, could be Samsung. People love their technology. It could be a brand that they're really passionate about. So maybe they love photography and want to be involved with Nikon somehow. Generally, there's going to be a few very high-profile brands that you love. You actually want to be involved in their communities, have a relationship with those kind of 6 brands. Remember, this is only the 43% of people who want that relationship. The key thing is, if you're in marketing, are you in that top 6? Probably not. If you think about how many brands you use every day, it's probably more than 6. But as I used to say in my last job at Dell, social media and brands only become relevant at 2 points in your life. When you break it and when you want to buy it. When you break it, all hell breaks loose. You're on the phone, you're screaming at somebody. Oh my God, please fix my laptop, please fix my mobile phone, my life is ending. Nowadays, instead of calling up people, you're going to social media and it suddenly becomes important. That brand page becomes a customer service page. And if you want to buy it, you want to go into social communities, you want to go into social networks, and you want to kind of use that social network as a CRM platform. Liking that page, plus wanting that page, being involved in that page, your expectation as a consumer is that you are actually going to get special offers. Money can't buy content, information. You basically want to be treated special and different because you've actually engaged with that community. But only those 2 points does it actually matter. The good news though, when they do connect with your brands, they become your advocates. Now, there's always a percentage of people, let's offhandedly say that's 10%, people who love your brand. They're always out there, they're super fans, they really love your brand. No matter what you say, they'll always be there to defend you. They're out there kind of writing content for your community, just for whatever reason, just really want to identify with you. In fact, once they become your advocate, we can see 56% of customers are more likely to recommend a brand after becoming a fan or engaging in social communities. 71% of shoppers regularly rely on reviews from families and friends. So particularly if they're kind of actually being kind of co-developed with brands. Actually being offered to do a rating or a review on a website or on a social networking platform is a very powerful tool for actually doing advocacy. And 68% of people are more likely to buy a product or visit a website based on a referral from a friend. And if you could actually use that user-generated power of referrals, ratings, and reviews, it's a very, very powerful form of marketing. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it's about realizing what social media marketing actually is and how to capitalize on it. So what are brands doing wrong, and how do we kind of build up this idea of brand love? Does it even exist? Yes, it does, but maybe not at the scale you think it does. And my first kind of major issue with how brands are using social media nowadays is this. 40% of customer service issues that are coming through social media are customer service related. 40%. I would argue if you're maintaining a Facebook page, a Twitter account, a Google Plus community, that you should stop doing that if you're in marketing or corporate comms. Hand that over to the customer service guys. Make them own it. Why? Because as marketers, as corporate comms people, as media professionals, you probably don't want to manage that community if most of the inquiries are about customer service issues. You probably want to develop your own marketing-centric platforms. And I'll show you how to do that. Second, you're not talking about passion points. You're not talking about things people really care about. Now, the top passion points in Singapore are unsurprising. Shopping, food, travel, technology. People love their iPhones, people love their Samsung Galaxies, people love their tablets. They really do. Travel, people love traveling. You know, every time there's a major holiday, people are always kind of getting on budget airlines, going somewhere, Bali, Thailand, Bangkok shopping. And of course, interestingly enough, the career and work features quite prominently. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as saying it's all about the 5 C's, but it is certainly about career advancement. And Singapore is one of the most hard-working countries in the world, spending so much time in the workplace that of course it naturally becomes a passion. So which brands are talking to you about these things? Probably not very many. And in fact, the conversation they have with you is about how awesome their product is. Do you really care? So, I propose something. I propose that when you start thinking about how you set up all of your social media across the key social networks, stop doing brand, country, Samsung, Singapore, change it to a passion point, buy your brand. Let me let that sink in for a second. Every brand in Singapore has set up Samsung Singapore, brand Singapore. As said before, most of your inquiries are going to be customer service related when you set something like that up. If you think about it, it's just natural. Why would everyone want to go to a Samsung page? Unless they've actually broken it or want to buy one. Pretty soon want to hang out there because you're bored. You've got other cooler things you can do when you want your me time. You're not going to be hanging out on a Facebook page or a Twitter account. But if you start to think about passion points, buy a brand, you start to identify that. One great example from Samsung. We sell TVs and we sell washing machines and refrigerators. The average buying cycle for TVs are around about 5 or 6 years. You know, when's the last time people actually bought a washing machine? It's every 10 years, or when one breaks, 3 times in your life. And you really care? I would argue you care about your home, you care about getting married and moving in with your husband or your wife. You care about buying an investment property and renovating that investment property. You care about your home. And where Samsung has a role to play is if we developed a platform around home by Samsung, talking about those things that matter to you. It's an always-on platform that's about a relationship that you might want to be involved with. And that's how marketing has to evolve. Another example, we do wonderful Galaxy cameras, which are Android-enabled, smart cameras. Take a shot, upload it in real time to a social network via Wi-Fi or 3G. Great camera. But do you really care about the camera, or do you care about what you can do with it? If you're a food blogger, you take a photograph of every meal. If you're a traveler, it's all about the destination. You want to take your camera out there and share that with friends. or it's about generally sharing your life, your experiences with other people. Very rarely do you stop and think about the brand of your camera when you do that. But when you think about those passion points, about food blogging, about photography, about travel, and if we can actually sponsor that, or be involved with that, or start to derive content around that, that's the right way to engage in social media. Another part I want to talk about, which is often overlooked in the kind of the land grab for social media properties, is influencer programs. Now, Laura talked about this a little bit with Superfans, but I'm going to give you a new model to think about. It talks about both paid and it talks about earned media, and it's a pyramid structure across 3 tiers of influencers. Looks a bit like this. Most brands have celebrities. They have endorsements, they have people who are very, very kind of famous or have huge amounts of influence. The relationship with those guys is about how much you pay them. I could bring out Rihanna, or we could bring out some super celebrities to actually maybe Psy or K-pop artists to sponsor Samsung. But that relationship only lasts as much as we're paying them. Generally, they'll stop promoting us as soon as we stop paying them. But you need them. They're your celebrities, they're your paid endorsements, they are your absolute influential super fans if you put enough money in front of them. But it's not sustainable, it's not scalable. The middle is interesting. Subject matter experts. They might not love your brand, but they might be very good at an area of subject matter expertise. So for example, there are a lot of food bloggers in Singapore. Great people who love their food, very passionate about food. Imagine getting a Samsung Galaxy camera in their hands so they can take a picture of that food with the Samsung product. Or if they're doing it with a Samsung Galaxy S3, and we're actually sponsoring those guys to do that. That's a great way of actually getting someone who's very influential in their community to start aligning to a brand. And of course, at the bottom, we have people who love your brand. That are the 43%. There are people out there who love your brand, but the issue with that is there's no scale. These are just average people. They have on average 234 Facebook friends. They might have some Twitter followers, but usually they're not even on Twitter. They probably don't blog. They probably don't engage in forums. There's people just going about their normal lives. But it doesn't mean they don't have stories to tell. It doesn't mean they can't actually kind of give reviews or ratings of your products. These are the people down the bottom who you should engage with to kind of give you content to put into your marketing efforts. To start writing those reviews for you, to start telling their stories. And the problem is, most marketers focus on one of these aspects, not all 3. If you want to be very good at social business or social marketing, you need to actually engage in all 3 points of the pyramid to get influencers up and running. And my last couple of slides of my presentation is when you do want to go direct to customers, when you do have a conversation with customers, you need to stop being generic. I see this happen all the time, and in fact, I've been guilty of this as well. You start talking in marketing language or customer service language. Dear customer, I'm very sorry that you had a problem. Can I direct you to our online form to please fill in? We'll get back to you in 5 to 7 working days. No one wants that. You want genuine engagement. If you're actually kind of putting your time, personalizing it, liking something, engaging in content, interacting with the brand, you want something back which is equally personable, equally authentic. Now, that's an example from Samsung in Canada. Now, it's very difficult to read, so let me just do this from the screen here. This is on Facebook when we were just about to launch our Galaxy S3 last year, our flagship phone, one of these. We had a customer in Canada who said to us on our Facebook page, "Hello, I have bought many Samsung products. I currently have a Samsung LCD TV, Galaxy S, Samsung laptop. I was just wondering if we can get a free Galaxy S3. I've attached a picture of a dragon I just drew for you. Have a great day." So how do you respond? Do you go for the generic marketing message, or do you try something a little bit different? Someone brilliant in Canada did this for us. He said, "Hey Shane, thanks for inquiring about scoring a free Galaxy S3. Unfortunately, if we gave a free S3 to everyone who asked, we'd probably be out before they ever went on sale, and we'd go under as a company. That being said, your drawing of the dragon is epic, so we're returning the favor. Please find attached a drawing of a kangaroo on a unicycle." Now, how often do you see that? It's authentic, it's engaging. You know what? We didn't give anything to this guy. We didn't have to kind of do anything above and beyond. It's just someone who actually kind of used their own tone of voice, their own personality, and this is something we're training up our social media staff at Samsung. This is something we're training up our customer service guys, our marketing people, and using this as our global best practice. How do you get authentic? How do you kind of take away the veneer of a big faceless organization? How do you become someone who's actually genuine, real, open, and honest? And in fact, we wanted to extend this a little bit further. So we actually sent him a Galaxy S3. So I'll read this out to you as well. As a token of our appreciation for, oh, I can't read that, it's a little bit blurry. Can't read that here either. But so basically we said, as a token for your appreciation, what we sent you is a free Galaxy S3 with a custom, one-of-a-kind, only epic picture of the dragon on it. There's no other customized S3s in Canada at the time. And it's all thank you for the wonderful media exposure we had, because obviously something that's started spreading virally. And some people have said to me, Damien, what are you doing? This is kind of just a blatant kind of grab for publicity. Why are you doing that? My response is, of course that's what we want to do. We're brands, we want to market like this. So, you know, if there's a way to leverage something like that, do it a little bit further, you know what? It costs the cost of one product and shipping. And this got a lot of media, got a lot of buzz, and it actually amplified it into a second wave of actually positive comments. So I've left you with a lot. My personal story about how people connect, the waves of friendship that people face, and the fact that you've got to face the reality. People generally don't want a relationship with you. If they do want a relationship with you, focus on the passion points, add value to their lives, and do something a little bit differently. So, thank you very much. Please note my details.